Hello, my name is Manyu Amarasinghe, and I will be discussing the topic of access to drinking water and sanitation in urban environments. In considering global patterns in public health, it is really crucial to pay attention to the urban environments. The world's population is currently undergoing a massive demographic shift in regards to where people live. As more countries in the developing world industrialize, people seeking opportunities relocate to urban areas. By 2030, 50% of the world's population will live in urban areas. By 2050, that percentage will increase to 70%, and 90% of this growth will take place in Africa and Asia. With rapid urbanization in lower and middle income countries, governments must utilize wise resource management and planning to ensure that this growing population has their needs met. And so one challenge that planners and other public officials face is getting limited resources to the many people living in their cities. One such resource that is scarce in some parts of the world is drinking for water and sanitation. And although improvements to access have been made, there is minimal and even backwards progress caused by rapid urbanization. In sub-Saharan Africa, access to piped water in urban populations has dropped from 43% to 33% from 1990 to 2015. In that same time period in Southern Asia, this increase was only from 50% of the urban population to 56%. Given the projected increases in urban populations in the coming decades, issues of access cannot be ignored. Area 6 of the Sustainable Development Goals has established targets which countries should aim to achieve by 2030, notably universal and equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water for all, and access to adequate and equitable sanitation and hygiene for all. Achieving these current goals and future targets will require action to be taken in urban areas. In order to make significant progress, the current state of water access in urbanizing area needs to be well understood. This investigation aims to explore potential obstacles to improve conditions and is meant to propose potential interventions. And so in order to conduct an accurate and up-to-date investigation of this topic, sources examined were only limited to peer-reviewed research and UN-based information published between 2015 and 2022. The databases listed here have allowed for the filtering of articles based on this criteria. And so in reviewing the expansive amount of literature on this topic, the obstacles preventing progress on this sustainable development goal could be placed into one of two categories: inadequate infrastructure and socioeconomic barriers. So there are a couple of these obstacles that prevent people from enjoying adequate infrastructure. One major cause is informal settlements, which might include communities like slums, which are usually created when there is a scarcity of housing or housing is unaffordable. Infrastructure in slums can be unsafe as they aren't built based on evidence-based guidelines that keep people safe. Existing infrastructure like water pipes can be unsafe as they're sometimes above ground as pictured here. This means that they are prone to contamination and can be damaged by nearby construction on roads. Even if there is a public source of water that can be used, it isn't always accessible as supply can be limited. There are also hours of operation which might be required to maintain the upkeep of the facility and regulate supply. Many also don't have access to safe methods of transporting and storing their water. Vendors and households often use open containers to store water, exposing it to contamination by people, insects, and microorganisms of all sorts. And so access to safe water isn't homogeneous in any one community. And this reflects in the socioeconomic barriers. For example, many are not able to access safe water due to it being expensive or behind a premium. This proves to be especially problematic in times of low supply from community water sources. where wealthier individuals have the ability to purchase private water, while others must go either without water or resort to less safe sources. An important part of improving conditions is through advocacy for oneself and their community. However, this kind of advocacy requires time and resources. And it's often the case that those who need to advocate for themselves the most often can't due to being occupied with paying for other necessities like rent or needing to take care of their children and their households. It's also difficult to take action when people living in areas like slums don't have ownership rights to the land they live on. Um, and so, because this issue is so um, multifaceted, many different approaches must be taken to improve safe water access to residents. In terms of short term actions that can have a more immediate impact, governments and non governmental organizations may be able to make a difference by providing closed lid, impermeable containers to residents. They could also implement outreach initiatives to educate people on disinfection practices like boiling their water before use. However, these short term interventions aren't enough. Populations will continue to grow, so it is sensible to proactively implement changes. Um, Governments must be able to provide adequate housing accompanied by proper interconnected water and sanitation infrastructure. And to do this, they must have the resources to project population growth and build housing accordingly. Um, and in order for this change to be effective, people in these communities must be involved in the creation of these solutions as they understand their needs, concerns, and community values better than anyone else. Um, the good news is that there are already initiatives being implemented according to the previously mentioned recommendations. The WASH program, which was established by UNICEF, involves community members around the world in projects meant to improve access in their community. One such example of a WASH project is the Association for Realization of Basic Needs, which is out of Dhaka, Bangladesh. Um, and so this program involves community members in several things like the management of sanitation chambers, awareness campaigns for hygiene practices, and in the negotiation of related legislation. Worldwide, resources should be put towards supporting these sorts of initiatives. And so here is an overview of everything that we've discussed in this presentation. In order to meet the challenges of our changing world, action on many different levels needs to be taken as soon as possible. Thank you for listening.